it. You get the second one. HAVOC gets put up, but there's a vehicle coming in and on fire here to finish the job.
Yeah, beautiful. Just dashes into the time turner, and Pina is there with the Mag 7. They should be able to... No, they can't pick their buddy up just yet. Porpor will expire. Bedep in a tough spot. PE Sports up against Bigatron by Vitality, and I don't think Bedep wants to take the fight. He gets the double revive. Narrow LBD brought back into the game here. Koja on the hunt, looking for the player. M24 in the hands of Bedep. Allows Koja to make the purchase. Doesn't step out of the defenses just yet. Sibeng making the purchase right under Bedep's nose. Bedep sees this. Bedep hears this. And he chooses to do nothing about it because of the overwhelming presence of the players on the side of Bigatron by Vitality right in front of him. But will Bedep do anything at all as they try to exit the compound?
Whenever you come under severe duress, just ask yourself this question: what will Bedep do? He held his breath for the longest of time, and I think he's safe. He is in the clear. BTR out of that compound, and PE Sports gets another chance for Esports Putrajaya as they are about to encounter BRU. Wasana onto the high ground. And just great instincts to find Raja out in the open. Time turner drop and another blue wall, but a flank from Getna confirms that, and 7 points for BRU.
A beautiful response by Raja though in that situation. I feel like mechanically he did the right things. Just unfortunate he had to go up against 2 players. There was a 1v1, there's a potential there that Raja could have handled Wasana on his own. And that's a great big respect to give the one and only Malaysian superstar who has been in the pro circuit for a long time, Raja. Look at Vitality on the double revive as their players make their way back in.
And there were some, questions about what is the champion bundle. And it's the Puram champion bundle. It's coming out soon though, so keep your eyes peeled for this because the cosmetics look great. Hoja not looking that great as LBD pumps in full of lead. Now it's Kyong at a 1v1, but LBT coming online and Kyong decides to completely surrender that fight. Doesn't want to take that 50-50, but LBT, he's not going to give out on this. 2 good shots will do it. That's the first one missed, second connect, but Kyong has enough just to get out. Bobs and weaves around the corner. That's expert driving.
Yeah, that's just punching the air, not in success, but just out of pure furiousness, as he could not get the job done. But they're driving right back at him. Sorry, you wanted a fight? They ask LBT, and they bring the fight straight to his tent. Beautiful stuff out of Bigatron.
I brought my friends. Where are yours?
Wait, bro. You want to fight? We'll show you a fight. That's unfair, bro.
Primary school technique sometimes still works. The good old technique of bringing more friends. You can't win the 1v1, make it a 2v1. And in this case, it's a 4v2. As the members of Secret WAG double what Twisted Minds has in the front line, that will allow them to get the initial knockdowns. And Twisted Minds quickly realizes that this is not their fight anymore. Diamond cannot get out of there, and Exposy forced to run away on foot.
Oh my god.
The elimination. Twisted Minds wiped out in 12.
Yeah, but a very good play off of Secret WAG. That was lethal, that was precise. They executed it with perfection. And now Falcons driving straight into their compound. The fight is not over for Secret WAG just yet. They just managed to loot up their opponent's Twisted Minds. But can they shut down Falcons? Limit X7, Kar98, up close and personal takes Wangam out of the equation. Tikui can't run away anywhere just yet. You also saw Popo up on top of the hill. So that's going to be a big danger for WAG as they try to exit this compound.
Pina taking out one of the spear of Secret WAG. Pina does it again. Pina is able to find the exchange there, but Falcons are not backing down. It's Popor to fill in the void. Pina will perish though, thanks to the Raphael of PLS1. So Falcons not entirely out in the clear. They did have to suffer one casualty, but in the grand scheme of things, they are the ones that came out on top.
And that's all because they left Porpor up on the hill all on his own. We usually see that position taken by Limit. But Limit's just not hitting those great shots and covering the squad as much. And they've swapped that role out. And Porpor now is in charge of covering the squad. And you can clearly see he's getting the job done. Vitality will lose Virus here. Just to a knockdown first. No eliminations as the... Sipeng! Stolen away, EVOS through Coach Hill's actions, have gotten an extra point for themselves. And Twisted Minds is the only team out of the equation so far.
A lot of responsibilities on Virus's shoulder as he needs to take care of the top floor of the building. They see him plant the turret earlier on. Azrael off screen, popped by Fanteezy. Look at the bigger picture here. BRU, they will leave Jonah behind just in case there are teams to make late rotation, but the other three have already secured a clear rotation path. BRU actually have a high ground advantage as well, giving them a good chance to catch Onyx Olympus on the rotation, and Moshi is keeping an eye on them.
The base has been slowed down here. For a good reason, it's purgatory, so as the circles get a tad bit smaller, we still have a lot of compound to kind of mess around with, so I'm not in a rush at all, especially because they've got a very good spot in this next circle. High ground with the dip in elevation of that hill as well to give them a little bit of cover if they feel like they don't want to take a fight. Now Por right back into the fight here together with the rest of his squad. PLS1 dropping back into the game. I think spotted out by Falcons. No shots taken just yet. Falcons going to focus on their rotation. Esports Putrajaya will try to play their luck, but it seems like their luck still has not recovered just yet. The WAG players will survive.
Let's see if both the Malaysian teams can stop Falcons in their tracks, because we are looking at 17 eliminations already, and we literally just talked about them having an average of 15, at least a minimum of 15 eliminations on their first day. 5 out of 6 rounds having double digits, with the lowest being 15. That is an insane feat, insane consistency that they've displayed, and now hitting 17 with 11 teams left in the lobby. AJ, what is Falcons on, man?
Just chaos, bro. Just absolute chaos about to break in here. And you know, it's a good kind of chaos, because this chaos might be just the kind of disaster that's required to take Falcons out of the equation. Because when they're cool, calm, collected, not a lot of pressure, I think they're just way too dangerous for the other teams to deal with. Maybe a little bit of distraction can help. WAG, unfortunately, does not get to enter the circle. 8 kept to their doom. LBT, beautiful that fight back though! And then the rest of the Wamos players are just scrambling, running away from him. LBT still alive. How can that happen? Narrow with the follow-up on the Mac-10. Wamos took no shots and they all perish in the hands of PE.
Clearly unprepared for what PE has in store. LBT completely just body slammed them with the Valiant Dash. And I said, no resistance at all. Let's see if Esports Putrajaya can set the balance right. Just gotta start thinning out some of the numbers, because in the best case scenario, I think Falcons have a chance to actually break the world record set by Lion, sitting at 45 points. But with the amount of bodies on the map and Falcons backing out so much elims, last we checked they were at 18. They just need 33. Actually, no, 34 at a Booyah, and they've broken the record.
There's a Pikachu body slam and there's a Snorlax body slam. LBT just whipped out the Snorlax body slam, but problem is, now the circle's going to do a number on them. Coach Shield, EVOS, keeping an eye on the players on the side of PE Sports. There's a big chance they all perish here. PE great on that play, but not a lot of numbers now on their side. MBR on the other hand, stuck in a tight little corner, looking to see if or not they can engage with the Onyx players. They break down their own defenses, and now they're inside of the zone. Esports Putrajaya taken out as well. The chaos has ensued. And look at Falcons avoiding a majority of the chaos. Is taking on a small fish in Mark now.
The Popo is actually down, and they can't get to him just yet, so the rest of Falcons will have to somehow wiggle their way out of this. But by getting rid of Getbu, limit finds an opening in to get Popo back up on his feet. Now they have to survive the blue. Like earlier on, Esports Putrajaya, actually the whole team, I believe, drowned. So it really makes you wonder what the rotation idea was. The same happened to Onyx Olympus. The Falcons now get to gatekeep the rotation, the escape route of Magna. Jan's actually tried to fight this. Are you insane? Because Peanut got that one. Virus was able to get 2 in return on Fire and Peanut on the ground, but Alif will have to do everything on his own. Finds Popor, but ends up getting wiped out anyways.
There's a big play there. You thought it was a small fish, and the small fish just happened to be a big, big shark. Actually, they're quite,
The piranhas.
No, in fact, a different species altogether. They're cats. They're big cats. But it's
Cats.
okay. We'll talk about that later. Falcons out finally. No supercharged game for them, but there's nothing that they cannot recover from later on. Buriram still alive and kicking, looking for the points. Riptide Rhythm sent out, but it breaks down the defenses a tad bit too slow here, allowing still MBR to find the recovery behind their time turner. It was that A124 that locked them down first. Question is, where did the thrill of battle come from? Because we didn't see the MBR players pop that earlier on. And now the counterplay for them is just to try to break down the defenses of Buriram, but they're not really aggressive on fourth. MBR knows they want the next circle and they have to focus on the rotations first.
One of the few rounds, the rare circumstances where no team have control of the circle at all because they were basically all centered around in the middle. But with the top two teams already out from this lobby, it is high time for teams like PE or BRU to catch up in points. And for MBR, they will have to face the music of BRU.
Let's see those glue wall melters. Again, time turner. Maybe too premature this time around. Buriram. This is their reshell up against MBR, and the follow-up from Moshi after the Riptide Rhythm was perfect on that AWM. Wasana in the thick of the action, running behind enemy lines, fighting with Ella as well, alongside Getna. But they need this instant pickup right here, right now. Wasana down on the ground. They do have the electrotherapy available on their side, and Wasana will quickly recover after the pickup. Getna gets to him quick enough, and Buriram continue their rotation towards this next zone.
Part of me thought that they would actually go from the low ground, but no, they're gonna charge right up and take out Onyx as well. As only Poom was left, Evos now have to make that rotation, but it's a bit late, so they will sustain some damage from the blue. Have to run straight into BTR, PE out in the open, and BRU controls the circle.
Evos still alive and kicking. Come on, Evos. But nah, don't do it. Put it up. They are my prediction. They do have the M79. Use it. Nah, they perished before they could. And now put it up with the numbers advantage. It's a 4v2. LPT, can you pull another Snorlax body slam? Moshi says, don't you even dream. C1 down. Getna finds LPT and Buriram finally with a booyah on this second day of play.
Much needed booyah, much needed restoration and confidence. As they blow the whistle and pull out the red card onto PE Sports for playing dirty. And BRU, 20 eliminations and the booyah, 32 big points. And that should be sufficient for them to make it into top 4 at least. And last we checked, WAG has 55 points, but they did get wiped out very early on. So BRU, plenty of opportunity to now be a part of that list.
On the first day of play for Buriram, they barely got much from their lobbies. 65 points in totality from their play. 21 points was the maximum number of points they managed to get from a Solara map. Apart from that, they were all subpar matches when you look at the quality that Buriram can usually bring into lobbies like this. And this is their very first booyah in their fall season. Quite slow for a brand like Buriram.
Last time when Buriram had sort of like the most amount of booyahs, it was more than a year ago, but they still currently hold the record for the most booyah in a single play day. 5 out of 6. It has not been replicated by any other team. I think Falcons came pretty close to that, but that record pales in comparison to what other teams have done since then. BRU, now I think the focus is not about the booyah, it's just refining that mid to late game, which when they get control of, they are one of the most solid teams.
Buriram is one of those teams that probably just force the hands of the developers to think that, okay, you know what, we need to switch things up. We need to drastically mend the meta of the game because these guys have mastered the game already. But every time you mend the ways of the game, every time you tweak that meta, somehow or other, Buriram finds a way to catch right back up. Regardless of the situation, they're able to mold themselves to fit that situation. And the best one to do that is Captain Jonah. This guy, the most decorated Free Fire esports player for a good reason.
The fact that after Paris, there were whispers out there, people thinking that, or at least, assuming that maybe it's time for Jonah to take that backseat. I think he's not done just yet. He still hasn't filled that cabinet with the last piece of the puzzle, which will only be possible in the coming year. But who's to say that he's not here and to win the fall season, and then his 4th world trophy. BRU, they have plenty of time to restructure for the rest of 2026 this Booyah proves to us that they still got what it takes.
And Moshi, one of the highest eliminators of this lobby, getting a total of 7 elims this time round. And it was a fantastic run in the grand scheme of things for the squad of Buriram. 8 eliminations just between Captain Jonah as well as Wasana. Getna 5. And what's crazy about Getna is he is your support player. He's your backup. And even when your support is hitting numbers like Getna, you know your team is going to be on a roll. He had the electrotherapy, he had the Olivia and the Diva. His main role out there is to pick up and to help the squad recover, but he goes beyond the call of his duty all the time.
Remember if you watch like any wartime movies or shows, usually the field medic is just focused on healing injured soldiers. Not Getna, he is the field medic and he has a shotgun in his hand. He brings in the AK as well. He can fight. It was in hard times when Wasana wasn't on form, when Jonah was struggling, Getna was the clutch factor that pulled BRU through some tougher situations in the games that we've seen them play in.
So it's crazy that you have got Jonah running a full active passive combination for a sniper, and it is Moshi that kind of skews off a little bit, bringing in the Suzy on his side just so that he can purchase more for the squad, most probably running a tactical market on himself as well. A double snipe perfection in terms of a setup here for Buriram, and I feel like they have got their rhythm finally already. Whatever they've experimenting with seems to be falling into place once again, and 32 points is massive. But look at Falcons. We talked about how today their average points have been 22.5. They just got 25 points. So they're still above their average.
Yep, 25 points, puts them at 80 points. I mean, their eliminations is more than double of the placement points that they have, right? You compare that to BRU and WAG, but the average, the differences between their elims and placement points are usually a lot closer. BRU, like we said, they should be able to catch up the top 3, and they just barely squeeze themselves into 3rd place. PE Sports making 4th, and followed by BTR and Onyx. So the cutoff point right now is 30 points for today if we talk about the top 6. But I gotta say, Esports Putrajaya and MEC, they aren't doing too bad on the game standings, but in the overall standings, well, we are still at the bottom.
Yeah, hold up, man. I was glazing Buriram so much, I totally forgot to glaze Falcons as well, right? These guys got taken out of the lobby prematurely. Falcons only had 4 placement points, and they got 21 eliminations to make sure their averages don't get messed up with. And now, after 3 games, Falcons are sitting on 80 points. If they continue on this trajectory, they're definitely going to be the team with the highest number of points collected in a day. They're going to set the record. In fact, they're going to break the record first that AGAL set on day 1, and then they're going to set their own record with 160. But of course, achieving what they've already achieved is actually asking for a lot, Husky.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right? AGAL, they closed out their first week with 248 points. Falcons got more than 50% of that on their first day with 135, 137 points. 37. Very, very good chance by the end of today, they're gonna make 1st place. So yeah, good on you, Falcons. Just another day in the office, right? Keeping the average high.
I mean, not only is the average high, I feel like they are closer than ever, right? Because if you look at the difference in terms of points now, they're about 32 points from catching up with AGAL, and if they have gotten 80 points out of 3 games, getting another 30 in the remaining 33 games is just not an impossible factor for Falcons at all. So whether or not they break the record of AGAL, they'll definitely take the number 1 spot away from them if they continue to do what they're doing. But it doesn't seem like Falcons is capable of dropping the ball right now, because I think everything that they have been practicing and perfecting so far is working out perfectly for them. And the one time where we saw Pawpaw get taken down a tad bit too early, we didn't see the team survive long enough into the lobby. But still, to get eliminated at that point with 21 eliminations is just ridiculous, Husky.
Yeah, there were attempts being made, right? When Pawpaw goes down, Limit has to put on his boxing gloves and really get down and dirty again. We see him really step in to bring Pawpaw back up on his feet. But Falcons, even in the previous seasons when they had games where they get knocked out early, they always make sure that the eliminations made up for it.
Absolutely, man. And of course, if we have a interview in a little bit, you know exactly who it's going to be with already, right? Guys, you guys know, right? It's going to be with Secret WAG. I can't wait because you guys get to see Yunsul once again. I can't wait because you guys get to see Yunsu. Yeah, I definitely said that one right. So HEAL, great domination, 2 days of play. Falcons trying to prove to the world that that was absolutely nothing. Buriram on the way back in here. I think that was a fantastic game that they just showed us. We also called out the Malaysian squads. We asked for them to wake up in the competition, Husky. And I feel like they're kind of delivering. But when I say the Malaysian squads, I'm not including Vamos in that list.
Yeah, I agree with that, right? And it was something that I did slightly touched on. It was from that game standing itself. It was Eastwood, Putrajaya, and Magna that actually had an average game. And then Team Vamos, again, still no signs of life at all.
I guess the disappointments from the Esports World Cup lingering a little bit too long, but I think the boys need to kind of just shake it off and step it up a tad bit out there, right? Has always been the challenge for the Malaysians to kind of just shake off some of those negative vibes and just start afresh when a brand new competition starts. They kind of carry on some baggage from the previous competitions. You don't see a lot of these other teams kind of do that. If you look at the Vietnamese teams, especially Husky, regardless of whatever kind of loss they face in one season, they're back like a monster in the next one.
Yeah, if you want to talk about baggages, if Vietnamese team, they know that quite literally to the bone, right? 2024, 2025, and then the recently concluded EWC was actually their worst showing because Secret WAG didn't even make grand finals. And then last year, we didn't even have a team from the region. But then prior to Paris, they won Clash Squad, P-Sports did it, and then Secret WAG closed out the first half with a spring victory. So there are some sort of fight back. And with Secret WAG right now, I believe is the most scrutinized team in Vietnam. Everyone is looking at them, and I can only imagine the amount of pressure that the players are facing.
Well, they are facing the pressure. Let's see how they deal with the pressure in a little bit as well, because the pressure is about to get amped up a tad bit more. The pressure that they feel on the battlefield cannot be compared to the pressure of being interviewed by Yunso. You guys will definitely enjoy that segment in a little bit. But of course, with Buriram finding this game as their recovery, I feel like they've made up for the mess in Bermuda where they could barely pull away points, only that one placement point that they got for themselves. But will this continue? We'll have to wait and see. What does Yunsu do in terms of shooting down the players of Secret WAG with questions? We'll find out right now.
Hello, our survivors. Welcome to our interview sections after the match. I'm Yusul and please welcome PLS1 from Secret WAG. Xin chào các bạn khán giả đã đến với phần vòng 1 của Yusul cùng với tuyển thủ PLS1 đến từ Secret WAG. Vậy thì ngay bây giờ chúng ta hãy cùng bắt đầu ngay với câu hỏi đầu tiên thôi nhé. For the daily challenge, do you think Vietnam can come out on top today? Thì đối với cái thử thách ngày hôm nay của chúng mình, rằng là đây sẽ là một cái thử thách mang tên niềm tự hào của khu vực, thì khu vực nào đứng đầu ở trong bảng xếp hạng ngày hôm nay sẽ là khu vực chiến thắng, và đội tuyển đó có quyền chọn ra một đội tuyển thua cuộc trong tất cả các khu vực còn lại, và đội tuyển thua cuộc sẽ phải cúi đầu trước đội tuyển chiến thắng như là một người đi cúi đầu trước một ngày vua vậy đó. Vậy thì em nghĩ rằng là Việt Nam ngày hôm nay có thể giành được cái chiến thắng đó hay không?
Em nghĩ là Việt Nam hôm nay thì chắc chắn sẽ được luôn.
For me, I am 100% confident that Vietnam, us can do that. We can be the winner of this challenge. Very confident. I love this. Okay, into our second questions. As the defending champions, which region you guys can see that is your biggest threat? Thì là một người đang bảo vệ cái ngai vàng vô địch của tụi mình thì không biết là PLS1 nghĩ rằng khu vực nào đang là khu vực mà em cảm thấy là có cái mối đe dọa nguy hiểm nhất ạ?
Thật ra thì đến với giải lần này là em và đội em chắc cũng không quan tâm lắm tới 17 team còn lại đâu. Em chỉ quan tâm là bọn em có thể nào mà quên đi chiếc vô địch cũ để mình có thể làm điều đó thêm một lần nữa hay không thôi.
Wow. Actually, for all of us in the Secret WAG, we don't really care for the rest of the 7 teams. We only care one thing, that can we, Secret WAG, forget about the past, which is our championship in the previous season in the sea, so we can redo a new memory of this. So we want to create another champions. That is the only thing we care about. And okay, so our third questions, it's going to be a little bit fun. Okay, so since we have this, I think that you guys are on a race in the team of the day with Team Falcons, if I remember. So do you think that you can have that achievements today and block that way of Team Falcons? Because it looks like they're a little bit better day by days now. Thì ngày hôm nay là Yusu có thể thấy được là mọi người đang tham gia một cái cuộc đua team off ở đây cùng với team Falcons. Nó cũng khá là sát nút rồi. Thì FFWS nghĩ rằng là mình có thể chiến thắng được họ không? Bởi vì ngày hôm nay họ và cả hôm qua họ thi đấu cũng rất là thăng hoa ạ.
Thì nhìn bảng xếp hạng sau 3 game thì bọn em đang thua hình như là 20 mấy, gần 30 á. Mà nói chung còn 3 game thì vẫn chưa biết điều gì xảy ra, bọn em sẽ có khá sức.
So we have checked our ranking boards. It seems to be like we are losing Team Falcons about 20 or 30 points, but we still have 3 more games. So we are not sure what is going to happen next, but we will try our best. Cảm ơn các bạn khán giả rất là nhiều vì đã lắng nghe màn phỏng vấn của Yusun cùng với FFWS đến từ Secret WAG, và hy vọng rằng là Secret WAG cũng như là PE Sports sẽ cháy hết mình ở trong 3 game thi đấu còn lại. Mọi người hãy bình luận thêm để ủng hộ và tiếp lửa thêm cho các bạn của chúng ta nhé. Thank you so much for your listening. And now let's head back to our casters.
Thank you very much. Phenomenal ballistics breakdown there by Yunsu, and PLS1 also came in lock and loaded. Yes, fear of the unknown. They aren't sure if they can catch up to Falcons, but they sure as hell will try. And that was the spirit that got them the spring trophy and a ticket to Paris. And I'm excited to see Secret WAG pull it back, because we did saw the first 2 rounds they read the circle perfectly, and that got them a great head start. Points, game 3 a bit shaky, but if they can find that game 1-2 mojo back, I think the second half would be just as smooth.
Yeah, either they pull it back or they pull an Onyx Olympus on us, and they'll just have to try in the coming seasons, right? But of course, I never expected Secret WAG to win the competition in the manner that they did, because it was phenomenal, it was unbelievable, it was crazy, but they got the job done. Can they do it again? That's besides the point. Can they catch up with Falcons? That's definitely going to be the main story of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm going to be taking a break for the day. Cripps will be taking my spot as he continues on for the final 3 games with Husky. We'll catch you guys after a quick short break. Don't you go anywhere. And even when they went down earlier than expected, they went down swinging, bro. 20 eliminations in almost every single game. It seems like the Falcons show so far.
Yeah, the Falcons show has not really left the local scene, even on their darkest FFMIC and FFWS SEA. There were people asking, which lobby is a lot more competitive between these two. I gotta say, I'm siding with Southeast Asia. I think
Yes.
the testament to that is, the team like Evo's Divine now at the very bottom. BRU can have very poor starts today. It really shows us that this lobby is ever evolving.
I don't think that question was even valid to begin with, because there's a massive difference between the SEA lobby right now and the region that I hail from. There's still quite a lot of skill disparity. I mean, we saw some impressive performances from the Indian teams in EWC, but there's still quite a long way for them to go to catch up to the rest of the Southeast Asian teams. And I have no shame in admitting that, because the caliber of the lobby is just that much better. If the three-time world champion Buriram United are struggling so much, it kind of tells you how difficult it is to survive in a lobby like this. And yes, Buriram managed to win the Booyah. Massive game for them in the third map. Cool, but they still faltered in the first two games, which kind of tells you really can't take anything for granted. Even if you're the three-time world champion, you can still be taken down, and you cannot afford to look out or overlook any other threats.
Even when we look at, I think, the recently concluded Esports World Cup in Paris, on the global stage, right, Latin America won their very first international trophy ever after 7 years of asking for that. And then even previously, Brazil were back-to-back global final champion in 2023 and 2024. The rest of the world is catching up. And I'm excited for the Indian scene to eventually be a part of that as well. But right now, the conversation at hand is Falcons going to stay on the top by the end of today? Is Secret WAG going to close the gap? And has BRU truly started their engines to make a comeback, or is Game 3 just a one-time thing?
I really hope it's not a one-time thing. A lot of teams are looking forward to seeing BRU dominate. A lot of people are looking forward to seeing BRU dominate. Of course, all the other teams will definitely not want that. That being said, though, I'm loving this little back and forth chase between Secret WAG as well as Team Falcons. In the first two games, they both were the ones who were in the top two. And in those first two games, if they continue dominating, then I think even Nextera belongs to these two teams. I want to see if anyone else can actually have a say in the Nextera map today, because even in Bermuda, when we saw Falcons not having the circle advantage, they were at the bottom of the mountain and Secret WHG controlled the entire circle. Falcons still found a way to win by capitalizing on PE Sports. They basically piggybacked on PE Sports' success, and they used that to turn the game around. And then once again in Solara, Secret WAG consistently manages to get the best spot in the circle somehow in both Bermuda as well as Solara. But this time Falcons were not able to overpower them in the second one. And obviously in the third game it was just the Buriram show. So these teams have spoken out loud, and they just seem to be performing consistently. But there are 9 more teams, right? I'm yet to see somebody else dominate the circuit.
Yeah, I think the last time we had any domination was during the BRU era, and that was like 2-3 years ago. But we do have a substitution for Onyx Olympus. We bring in Putra, and Demons will sit out at least for Game 4. Whether it is for the rest of the second half, that remains to be seen. But Onyx is a team that since I believe 2025 EWC, well, they won Spring in 2025, and then they went on to EWC, and they didn't really do well in Riyadh. But ever since then, a big piece of what defined Onyx Olympus has been lost, and they're still trying to recalibrate what they are. But the regional pride still leans towards the ties. Falcons, of course, being the representative right now with 80 points, followed by Secret WAG with 55 in second. So there's a 25 point of difference, as mentioned by PLS1 in the earlier interview.
Yeah, and PLS1 does seem to be quite humble in the interview. I hope that he can find that confidence in-game as well, because they've been dominating in-game. Maybe it's just his personality, because I've not really seen much of his interviews, but all that humility does not match their personality in the game. Secret WAG have been aggressively going for all the most highly sought-after compounds and getting that area under their control. And even after having the best possible places in the circle, they don't always manage to convert it. Falcons, on the other
other hand, it doesn't matter if they have the best possible compounds or not. They always seem to be dominant with their eliminations. And that's why I'm not surprised that both of us have picked up Falcons as our prediction for this game.
Yeah, I would pick Falcons all the way if I can, but obviously with such a ever-changing lobby, even Falcons aren't always at the top, even though the points say otherwise. So let's see if Nextera is going to be any different, because Nextera is one of the funkier maps that we have in the competitive pool, and it is also a map where teams who are struggling, like EVOS or even Team Vamos to a certain degree, can make a surprise comeback, and that is on the condition that they have found some composure during that short break we had.
Yeah, and keep in mind that it's not just the top spot of the table that's on the line today, it's regional pride that's on the line today. Stick around till the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, because you're bound to see some very entertaining segments when the winner of today will get to choose a little punishment for the losing regions. But let's see whether those winners will be determined in the first few minutes of the game or not, because I am seeing a potential drop clash headed towards Decker Square. B Esports as well as Esports Putrajaya landing very close to each other, and also you've got Magna Esports Club and Falcons potentially clashing against each other over here.
Okay, but actually with a Mac 10 somehow was able to spray some damage onto On Fire, even though Limit is right in front of him. They do have the Oscar Cassie combo, a classic one. The Riptide Rhythm though prevents any sort of an immediate push. Good coverage from Team Falcons, but they still need to find a way to fail Limit out of this.
Yeah, Limit is just staring daggers at Aleph and Getbu. He's making sure that his teammates always have lines of sight on him so they can provide some overwatch while he closes in the distance. They're just looking for a little bit of a knock, maybe an opportunity so that Limit XM can go full sending in. That's his cue. Plenty of damage dealt onto Aleph and Getbu, but Getbu actually managed to get behind the sandbags, and that is going to be a little bit of a stalemate for now. Meanwhile, at Grab Labs, you've got EVOS versus Vamos Esports, and Ezreal draws first blood.
And I always have this firm belief that teams who are willing to drop at Grab Labs, especially hard drop at Grab Labs, are teams who have no regard for a dice roll, right? Because if you drop them in Grab Labs and you try to start an early fight, not everything, all cards are off the table, right? Especially when you fight in the internal structure where there's very low gravity, the Vamos need to find a way to wriggle out of this spot. MBR arriving at the scene.
Yeah, the team that Vamos were initially fighting have escaped, so now they have a new opponent, and that's gonna be Magna Esports. I'm sorry, that's gonna be MBR. Good knock by Vara. Plenty of cover provided by Rafila as well from the high ground, but they still need to find a way to convert those knocks into eliminations. And while we are talking about this fight, Esports Putrajaya bite the dust. They become the first team to get eliminated from this game.
Incredibly early exit for one of the Malaysian teams. Can't say Magna also about to face the same fate potentially, right? Because they are still exchanging fire with Falcons off screen. Random fires from Evil's Divine arriving at Grab Labs roof. The Team Vamos relocate, but MBR still on the hunt, and that blue wall gives them a very good indicator that there are some Vamos members hiding.
And MBR now looking to isolate Zeus and Israel. Flash faces right on top of them. Nades being thrown, being rained upon them. And here comes the dash. Zeus taken out. No retaliation from Vamos Esports as MBR continue to dominate this battle. But their third lurker, Rafaela, the guy who's on the high ground providing cover fire from afar, has just been taken down by EVOS Divine. So MBR need to quickly lick their wounds, recalibrate from this loss, and prepare for the incoming third party.
They use the Oculus to scan as well. It could be from MBR to figure out where Fies was, or it could be Fies trying to determine how many MBR members are nearby. The isolated June found out by both Getna and Wasana. That will be BRU's first point. Again, Grab Labs, very volatile area to fight in. Vamos are paying a big price.
Yeah, I mean, they lost a couple of their members to MBR. Now their third player, who's supposed to be the insurance policy, goes down to Buriram. It seems like all the odds are stacked against them. And Buriram figured out that this guy from Vamos was running away from Grab Labs. There's definitely two teams fighting over there. But what they don't know is that there's three teams already, and they are the potential fourth party, because even B Esports have entered the fight. Moshi misses the shot up close. Fez wins that battle with the Max 7. And here comes the backup from Vasana. Instant res onto Moshi, and Buriram are back at full strength.
Moshi will need some time to patch himself back up. PE Sports and MB are still fighting on that low ground. that will be a tag, I believe. One of the MBR players down is Rafaela. So Kenna will go in for the confirmation. That will be Gary's 4-point. And that should clear up Graph Labs for now, as stragglers of EVOS and PE Sports are just out in the wild. Aim God finds an ambush there. LBT gets a knuckle sandwich. EVOS finds their fourth.
This could be a fair 2v2 fight. Aim God fighting with depth. God puts up a glue wall just to save his skin in the nick of time. Apex comes through with the foul, but Aim God gets sprayed down by Nero regardless, and Videp also wins his duel. Meanwhile, EVOS, the players on the other end of the map, are also losing their lives. No matter where they are, no matter whether they're alone or they've got backup, EVOS seems to be struggling down to their last player.
So Apex getting taken down, that was him losing a gunfight for Aim God? What? A bit of a questionable decision making there. EVOS feeding 3 members into the meat grinder. But thankfully you have Fires to still keep the run alive. A rest Suez by Jun as Axel cashes in on a PE Sports member, and Secret WAG fighting Deeks out in the open. Is Nan with his Trogon to give them another point.
Alright, Secret WAG getting all their fights without any problem so far. They're even isolating all these battles. No matter who they're up against, they don't seem to be losing any members, so they don't even need to go for any reses. And right now, poor Gocha kinda isolated. His teammates are flying in to help him out, but will they arrive in time? Because Gocha seems to be holding his ground for now. Plenty of damage dealt onto none, but they're all managing to cross that distance, cross that treacherous gap by covering in the glue walls. Gocha jumps down, full committing to the battle, but Juan gets the better of him.
I mean, a Hail Mary attempt, I believe, from Koja. At least he tried, but Secret WAG, a tight-knit circle. And that should free them up in that vicinity. Twisted Minds rotating in. Quite the no-show on game 3, but they should be able to handle Fantasy, who is alone. Jump and the Bass, always sticking together side by side. And Twisted Minds should slowly gain control of Decker Square. MBR, I don't think they want to be around here.
Yeah, but MBR are more than happy to pick up these isolated fights where they have the numbers advantage in every single situation. Right now, though, MBR might just be biting off a bit more than they can chew, because Jokers is heading towards that vending machine, but he's going to get capped by Twisted Minds, and the Bass gets him. But luckily, you have Bara standing right next to another vending machine in some other part of the map, so he can instantly buy his teammates back.
Diamond was actually sniped by one of the PE Sports players, but unfortunately no one can reach him. Small price to play, but that flies in. Nero's already spotted out. EVOS Divine found out by MBR. The pass in 1v1. Gotta switch to a better weapon. The Charge Buster was a bit too slow, and that was the right choice, having jumped by his side again. Inseparable duo of Twisted Minds getting the first drop.
Yeah, Twisted Minds are just getting fed all these eliminations, and now they've got another fish in the net. You got PE Sports also sending one of their players to just creep into this area, hopefully scout some information out. But the question is, will he find Twisted Minds, or will they find him first? Extremely close. There goes Nero, trying to get the first shot, but he loses the advantage, and now he's been discovered. Exposy quickly recalibrating his position, and there you go. Lovely shot by Diamond. Nero taken out.
Every angle accounted for, even committing the FGL just to make Nero extremely uncomfortable. And Falcons need to quite make their rotation. They are on that highway, which was spotted out by Secret WAG, but unfortunately no clear shot for the Vietnamese. That's for Limit, and Limit somehow sneaks that one in on the T-Quay. We did highlight Popor making his job easier, but when Limit missed the step up, he absolutely does. Pina also finds one.
Nice two-piece from Limit X7. That vantage point on the bridge might just get him a third one as he spots Huang. Oh, just about gets in cover. So Huang, his life will be spared for now, but On Fire is landing right on top of his head, hoping to finish off what Limit X7 started. And there comes the spray. Another blue wall put up. Huang desperately trying to save his skin, hoping that he can land the jump shot against On Fire. But he's gonna go in for the wide swing. This 1v1 has gone on for way too long. I'm surprised that Falcons hasn't sent in any one of their other players to back On Fire up, but he seems to be handling himself for now. Huang just running around. How on earth is he still alive? He's holding his own until he, of course, gets sprayed down by On Fire finally. So Falcons up at 9 eliminations again.
A twin bridge and halfway there to the... more than halfway to the average 15 per round so far. halfway there to the double digits of 20. Vamos making a full recovery after a horrific start to the game by having to face off against one of the better CQC teams in the name of Twisted Minds. Let's see how they play this out because they have just gotten control of the internal of this compound.
Yeah, Twisted Minds, this duo sticks together, hoping to provide each other cover fire. Even if they try to isolate the fights against Vamos Esports, they're just running around and hoping that they can somehow break this duo up, or if not break them up, at least isolate those battles. But the rest of Vamos Esports have also arrived. The pass using the TPB to get that pre-fire in deals a little bit of damage, but doesn't get any knocks done. Now these blue walls and the reinforced blue UAV separating these two. Maybe the person from the high ground can give them a little bit of an advantage, but they try to climb around the other side, hoping to find the angles onto Vamos, and it's Diamond who strikes first. There goes down one more player. June bites the dust, and it seems like Zeus will be the next one to follow. Axel also accounted for on top of that roof. Diamond making sure that he keeps them pinned down on the roof so that he cannot provide any cover to his teammates Zeus and Ezreal on the low ground.
Twisted Minds letting Team Vamos take the compound only to trap them in it themselves. Brilliant thinking that from the ties, this should be the undoing of Team Vamos. Magna also not doing too shabby. The entire day so far has been quite a decent day for Magna Esports. Even though they don't really place that high in terms of placement, they have managed to make themselves known from time to time.
Yeah, at least they're avoiding disaster because their performance so far has been a bit lackluster, but now they're stepping up and they're holding on to their horses over here in this little room. Even though they're getting flanked by Onyx, and even though Bigatron are just across the other side of this compound, it seems like Mapmites will be able to repel away Onyx for now. And just like that, a lot of these teams will start to take their positions in this little vicinity. Mapmites Works Club, Bigatron, Onyx have already secured their spots. There's a couple of other rooms which are still available for the teams. Let's see which one of them gets here first.
Even with BTR, this is a slightly better game than what we've seen in the first half. Now they have to face up against Onyx Olympus again. Warning shots being fired out. It's the bank having his teammate by his side. And Onyx Olympus not interested in this exchange just yet. They're holding to quite the comfortable compound. And even for BTR, they don't want to stay there too long, just in case there's a separate team nearby. But Twisted Minds finds themselves in the nest of BRU. Is 3 against 4.
Yeah, the numbers disadvantage really not working out for Twisted Minds. Jump goes down to the throwables, and Moshi steps out just to confirm that elimination. Even Getna puts one right in between Exposi. Oh my lord, this is going from bad to worse because Buridam seem to be unshakable, and Twisted Minds, just by knocking on those doors, have kicked the Hornet's Nest. And that's what happens when you kick the Hornet's Nest. You get stung, paper cuts in a million pieces.
Some of the bad habits of Twisted Minds rearing its ugly head, especially those rotation. If you're fully relying on Diamond from long range, you don't want to fight into close compound. T-Kui getting LBT, Hong Am on C1, Secret WAG, just superior in this fight against PE Sports and making it look easy. The young superstar rusher of the team, T-Kui, getting his 5th elim, and PE Sports standing absolutely no chance.
PE Sports succumbing under the pressure, but Nero still holding on to his life. As soon as I said that, BLS1 gets the better of him. At least he prevents Onyx from getting that elimination.
Just a quick reminder that the Buriram Champions bundle is coming soon to the store. If you want to get your hands on that, I know a lot of diehard BRU fans are out there. This is your chance to show your support to one of the greatest teams we have had in competitive Free Fire. Utility thrown towards MBR. Falcons split into a 2-2 formation. MBR wants to sneak for the low ground to avoid line of sight.
Yeah, but as soon as MBR go to the low ground hoping to avoid Falcons, they might just run into Bigatron. It's them being trapped between a rock and a hard place, and they'll soon be put out of their misery. MBR is out. And now that Falcons unquestionably control this high ground, they can use this position to farm up as many eliminations as they want. Yeah, sure, Waterboy goes down. That's a cool knock, but it's not going to result in an elimination. And Falcons will still continue raiding from above.
And that actually got Falcons some crucial info about teams that are nearby, right? Because we saw Onyx chip in, we saw BRU chip in as well in the efforts to take out MBR. They did call out 2 monster truck earlier on, but with Blue Zone closing in, I think they are still going to be in the clear, but the next one might force Falcons to rotate off to that low ground. Falcons right now will just take advantage of whatever they have to get a couple of stragglers as they take out Secret WAG, not doing too well.
Yeah, Secret WAG desperately trying to get into the compound that Magna Esports Club is holding. And Magna doesn't even need to fight them off. Falcons are doing their work for them. Falcons getting all the eliminations that they need. Yes, sure, Magna Esports Club have sealed up this entire house with the glue walls, but they're not getting any eliminations on the back of it. BLS1, one of the only people from Secret WAG who manages to make that rotation, now is hoping that he stays safe. He's hoping that Magna Esports Club act as his bodyguards, but they will also be forced to leave this compound eventually.
Onyx now in dead center of the circle. BRU needed to come in for the southern side, and Falcons will eventually be forced to vacate that high ground and get into a more fair fighting position with the other teams on fire. Move Secret WAG from this lobby, and Onyx Olympus now forced to spring into action. Magna on one side, BRU on the other, trying to really force the cross, and boom, dealing some crazy damage. Jonah getting clipped in his feet. Meanwhile, off screen, it is Onyx and Magna getting peppered by Falcons, who are still vulturing for extra points.
Falcons are indiscriminate at this point. They're no longer Falcons. You're right when you say that they are vultures.
Not there. AWM in hand as well. Close range, long range, Port's got you covered. Jack of all trades, master of all as well. Pina onto G'day. Onyx Olympus might just have to let G'day bleed out at this point. With the blue zone closing in, Onyx Olympus are down to just 3 members. And Falcons, what a strong spot to be in. On top of a nest.
Yeah, the only team that's actually safe from Falcons are gonna be Buriram because they're directly underneath them. So unless Falcons abandon this high ground, they will not be able to take shots at Buriram, but they will definitely be able to make Magna Esports Club's lives miserable. They try to make that crossing, they try to force the fight against Bigatron, but by the time they get to Bigatron, all of them are so low on health, and Bigatron don't even get anything. They just get 1 elimination. Everything else is just lapped up by Falcons.
It almost feels like one of the events from Squid Games, right? Where the doll sees you, the doll shoots you in this manner. And instead of 1 doll, it's 4 dolls holding the Falcons insignia. BTR, despite being under such heavy surveillance, still managing to keep the whole squad up with 11 eliminations. And BRU continuing to be safe, like you said, but they might have to face the tune of Onyx Olympus and BTR, who will start to get desperate as this circle closes in.
Yeah, they're right. But still, the biggest threat continues to be Falcons. And yeah, I mean, I'm not much of a Squid Games fan, but there is no green light over here. You just have to pray that you don't get shot. Put those glue walls up as quickly as you can and hope that you get safe passage. Buriram now will have a lot of people coming towards them. Onyx and Bigatron also just enjoying the calm before the storm, taking in their breaths, preparing for the incoming slaughter.
If the circle shift alliance is parallel with the bridge, it will be a godsend for Falcons. Right now, they are going to slowly wriggle their way into the center, but it does seem like they are not going to be lucky throughout the entire way. The Bolt Maker wants to use Stormcore out, but Popor, again, with his senior by his side, limit X7, starting to pepper the teams out in the open again on fire. Does need some rescue. They bring it back up onto the monster truck. Here they come onto the low. Oh, let's go! And they stick the landing. Yes, they do, but limit will be taken down by Jonah. They put up a barrage of blue walls to bring him back up, and BRU actually takes limit down again, but now they have no access to Falcons. They gotta deal with Onyx.
Yeah, Falcons basically on X Games right now, getting into the monster truck and climbing on top of that roof, always maintaining the high ground advantage. Meanwhile, Buriram and Bigatron clashing against each other at the bottom, desperate to not get thirded. Meanwhile, Buriram, they still need to get inside that house, or better yet, keep Onyx inside and lock them in over here. The circle has barely any inches remaining. Deeks is just counting on his meds and hoping that the heal battle lets him win this one. Meanwhile, Falcons also might be forced to do the exact same thing. Buriram now knocking the door down, hoping to fight Onyx in that little claustrophobic circle, and everybody is just going down. Get down with the double. Wasana comes through with another elimination as well. The circle is non-existent, and it's just a heal battle right now. It's Porpor versus Buriram Esports. Wasana and Porpor hoping to find each other before they succumb to the blue zone, and Wasana lives through it all.
Back-to-back booyah for Buriram United Esports, but I gotta say, the biggest clutch there